Now, let's get on to Donald Trump. He gets infected with coronavirus. We hear the usual hysteria and Trump derangement syndrome obsessives in the media celebrating. They tell us this is his karma. This will derail his campaign. When I dared to say here on Friday that it just might work for him, they scoffed. Yet, look at him. He's energised, confident, tackling the disease and thanking his supporters. Listen to what the journos yell out to him as he left hospital earlier today.
Mr. President, how many staff are sick? How many of your staff are sick?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do you think you might be a super spreader, Mr. President?
Do you think you might be a super spreader, Mr. President? These people are literally crazy. Crazy with hatred, bias and bitterness. You can hear it in their very tone and certainly in the hysterical things they say. Listen to CNN's commentary.
He knows the nightly newscasts are on right now. He knows all the cable
there
channels
he
are
is.
watching.
There's the president, Brian. He's obviously stopping again, giving another thumbs up. He's going to, get aboard Marine One, make that brief flight to the South Lawn of the White House. We're going to try to watch as much of this as we can. Brian, go ahead.
It's not a real show of strength, but it's a performative show of strength. This is what strongmen do in autocratic regimes. Of course, thankfully, we are in a democracy, but this is the kind of thing you see from strongmen who want to appear to be leading. It's a dear leader sort of approach, and I think that is what we are seeing on our television screens. Meanwhile, there are big questions about the cover-up. You know, why won't they tell us about his testing history, when he was tested? We've moved from this possibly being a cover-up to actually being a cover-up. And whether the president's at Walter Reed or back at the White House, reporters are going to keep demanding answers to those questions.
A cover-up while they're watching those pictures. These people need help, don't they? The president did two more things to send these people right off. First, he gave some strong advice about the path forward with the pandemic.
Don't let it dominate you. Don't be afraid of it. You're going to beat it. We have the best medical equipment. We have the best medicines, all developed recently. And you're going to beat it. I didn't feel so good. And 2 days ago, I could have left 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I felt great, like better than I have in a long time. I said just recently, better than 20 years ago. Don't let it dominate. Don't let it take over your lives. Don't let that happen. We have the greatest country in the world. We're going back. We're going back to work. We're going to be out front. As your leader, I had to do that. I knew there's danger to it, but I had to do it. I stood out front. I led. Nobody that's a leader would not do what I did. And I know there's a risk, there's a danger, but that's okay. And now I'm better, and maybe I'm immune. I don't know. But don't let it dominate your lives. Get out there. Be careful. We have the best medicines in the world, and it all happened very shortly, and they're all getting approved. And the vaccines are coming momentarily. Thank you very much.
And then, as if to rub it in, he released this Hollywood-style clip of his momentous return to the White House. Yeah, democracy is dead, according to Trump's critics, except that voting has already started and Election Day is just 4 weeks away. The president also took to Twitter, endorsing some commentary that said you can see the rising enthusiasm for Trump in the supporters outside the hospital, the increase in voter registration for Republicans in battleground states, and noting that if the president bounces back onto the campaign trail, he'll be like an invincible hero who'd survived every dirty trick the Democrats threw at him and the Chinese virus too. The piece was written by our good friend Miranda Devine. We'll talk to her in just a moment. And she said Trump will show America we no longer have to be afraid. Trump responded on Twitter by thanking Miranda, and he said he'd had the election in the bag until the plague came in from China and that he'll now win anyway. This does change the dynamic, doesn't it? Much hinges on the president's health. All that bravado is going to backfire on him if he gets worse, as many people do a couple of weeks into the disease. Meanwhile, Trump's opponent has an approach that is the polar opposite.
Every major scientist and doctor and immunologist has said that's a very dangerous thing to do. The particles and droplets can stay in the air for a long time, longer than they thought. It can go beyond 10 feet. There's all kinds of things they've learned and know. And look, I view wearing this mask not so much protecting me, but as a patriotic responsibility. And all the tough guys say, I'm not wearing a mask, I'm not afraid. Well, be afraid for your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, your neighbor, your coworker. That's who you're protecting having this mask on, and it should be viewed as a patriotic duty.
He keeps saying this stuff without a mask on. Apparently, you can just have them to carry around and wave around with you. So the election is now also about optimism versus pessimism. America, of course, is the land of the optimists, but it's been very sorely tested of late. In the final weeks of this campaign, the health of the candidates and the contest between optimism and pessimism will have a big say on the outcome.